start out, say your first and last name and your title here.
Norman Kraft, General Manager, Niagara Recycling.
Is that KRAFT?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. So Norm, tell me a little bit about what goes on at the facility here and the diversion program.
At the facility, we, hang on, how much did you tell already about how it comes in and everything?
I just talked about number of cars, or number of trucks and number of cars that we landfill now.
Do you have tonnages and all that?
I talked about over 70,000 tons. And
a little bit. Now we're at a 100,000 square foot facility, and I've seen a lot of garbage, or not garbage, but recyclables come in the door. Just give us an idea of how much comes in the door and how much gets processed on, let's say, a yearly basis.
In 2011, we're projecting to process approximately 75,000 tons, of which 80% of that would be from the residential recycling program, and approximately 20% is from the the commercial, industrial, and institutional recycling programs. We have approximately 80 staff that process recyclables on the 2 sorting lines, the fiber line and the container line. We also provide employment for development challenged adults. We have up to 8 development challenged adults who are sister company Entech, who's based out of Port Robinson, which work side by side our workers performing the sorting function. One of our primary goals is to provide revenue back to our sister company Entech to expand programs for development challenged adults in the Niagara region. For example, some of the programs that we've funded currently and in the past, there's a summer autism program at Brock University that we've provide funding for. We also provide capital funds for Entech to expand their greenhouse operations at Port Robinson, to improve living conditions in a number of apartment buildings that they own in the Niagara region, upgrading facilities there for development challenged adults as well. So
I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up, because people often just think of recycling and the environment, but there's actually a real community impact that it seems like you're involved in with the money and the jobs that are created through the recycling here. Absolutely,
yeah. That's how our whole basis started back in the 70s, and we've continued to continue that mandate throughout the years, because that's basically our primary goal, is to take revenues that we earn from our management fee from the regional of Niagara, and we use those funds directly back into the community.
So we were just through the plant and we did a tour. What would you say would be sort of some of the main money makers in terms of we saw the bales, you've got your aluminum cans, you've got your various different compartments that everything's been put in, but what are the main money makers that sort of come out of the bales and the finished product, if you will, that comes out of the facility once everything has been sorted and sent out?
The highest generating revenues are the fiber, the cardboard, and the newspapers, and of course the aluminum cans. The aluminum cans are interesting in that they actually don't require any manual sorting. It flows through the entire process, and then at the very end it's sorted automatically by a device called an eddy current. Aluminum cans, although they only account for about 3% of our total tonnage out of those 75,000 tons a year, it's actually only closer to 2%, but it accounts for probably 25 to 30% of our revenues. A ton of aluminum, which consists of about 60,000 cans, is worth approximately $1,700 a ton. Whereas newspaper, it's because of the volume of the material that comes in, and cardboard that accounts for such a high percentage of the revenue.
Now, for all the people who are busy sorting their garbage every week in the region, what are some of the sort of the challenges that you find in a facility like this in terms of perhaps misconceptions, how people sort things, or what would you have to say about that? Because we do have a gray box, we have a blue box, and we noticed that there was a big pile of things that were incorrectly sorted and they were placed in another area. Are there any sort of tips you could give someone when they're appropriately sorting out their items on the curb every week?
Well, the biggest challenge by far is the plastic bags. There seems to be confusion that because it's plastic, a plastic bag goes in the blue box, and quite often residents throw their bags of grocery bags or bread bags or the outer wrap around pop cases gets thrown into the blue box, and it's all mixed in with all the other plastic and glass and cans. And that means we have to sort that all by hand at the recycling center. The information the region provides to the public is that the bags are supposed to be all placed into one bag and tied together, and then that bag full of bags is placed in the fiber box. So when it comes up the fiber line, it can be easily removed and placed down the chute. If that bag full of bags ends up in the container side, again, it can rip open from the sharp lids, from the glass, and then it ends up being another blue box full of loose bags, or once it ends up on the floor here. So that's one of our biggest challenges, is sorting plastic film. The other items would be ensuring that residents don't put in non-recyclable items such as old tools, saw blades. We also get a lot of frying pans and pots and things like that.
That almost seems so out of the ordinary that people are just being lazy. They must know better than to put that in those boxes.
Well,
I think it's overzealous.
Overzealous, yes. Which is not a bad thing, but unfortunately it's a lot more labor at this end to deal with those items. We see batteries, we see pool noodles from the kids' pools, we see lawn chairs and so many different items and what happens is those items jam up the sorting process and requires us to stop the line to pull them off. I mean, the single biggest hazard here is needles. We receive a lot of
medical needles.
Medical needles is a huge safety issue here, and that's very important that our residents dispose of those safely and not put them in their blue box. Even if they think they put them into a jar all tied up,
they could get loose.
It can get loose,
yeah.
and they're not recyclable. The needles are definitely not recyclable. In fact, we put them aside and have to dispose of them through the regional hazardous waste programs.
Now, if someone is confused, what would be the best place online for them to go to sort of figure out where everything goes and what is acceptable and what is not?
I believe the regional website, Catherine, you can go on to determine.
Is it niagararegion.ca?
We actually have a search tool as well.
Okay.
Where people can actually type in an item if they're not certain whether it's a green bin material, a blue or gray box material. So they can actually type in the name of that product and information will come up specifically about that item and how they can dispose of it.
Perfect. So that's very user-friendly. So there's really no excuses if you make a little bit of an effort. All right. Well, thank you very much, and best of luck in the future. It sounds like you're really successful at this point, and through some of your literature, it looks like you have very big targets in the future that you're hoping to reach as well in terms of your diversion.
Again, that's your question.
65%, it looks like, by 2012.
65%, that's correct. We're currently at 43%.
Right.
And we're projecting around 47, 48% for 2011.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.